First of all, I need to understand that agents are the new software, and how this new software is organized and processed matters a lot to how an organization's people, process, and technology are going to ladder up to the healthcare triple mission, and how healthcare organizations are going to meet their growth goals. So AI is not just a place where you type a prompt and get an answer. The more intimate we are about agents as the new software process that has tools that can hold memory, that can work asynchronously, that can coordinate with other agents, that can operate inside guardrails, the better we can move forward over time. So we have to live in the future a bit as things are changing so rapidly. The lunarscape is exploding in healthcare, right? That changes the question for every healthcare company. The question is no longer which AI tool should we use? The better question is, what operating system are these agents running on? How do we deal with sandboxes? How do we deal with experimentation, but while managing a disciplined process, right? So if the operating system is fragmented, the intelligence becomes fragmented. If the intelligence is fragmented, the business will drift. And that's the problem that HealthFounderOS was built to solve. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges and the patterns that I keep seeing in healthcare companies. The problem is not a lack of human talent or desire or passion for the health mission. The problem is fragmentation. Strategies happening in one place, legal interpretation somewhere else, compliance reviews in another workflow. Commercial planning is not just another set of documents. Marketing just has its own language. Sales has its own priorities. There's always been a tension between marketing and sales. Clinical and regulatory teams have their own really vital risk framework, right? And then you have HIPAA and issues around data security and privacy, literally everywhere in the organization, right? And then leadership has its own version. CEOs need their superpowers. They need to be able to have private conversations at the executive and board level. And so that group is potentially in its own island. Everybody else has its own superpowers, right? So AI has entered the picture, and now every function has access to its own intelligence layer. One person's using AI for investor messaging, another for legal interpretation, another for market research. And all of that sort of feels like progress. And in some ways it is, right? You want experimentation. You want 1,000 flowers blooming to an extent, right? But you want people discovering what these tools can do. But if these tools are not connected to one shared context, it creates a new kind of organizational problem. It creates misalignment and strategic drift. Different people are working from different assumptions, different legal interpretations, different versions of the plan appear, different versions of the commercial story, different customer promises get drafted, different views on what's working, not working. It becomes an issue, right? So it's not a tool problem, it's an operating model problem. And in any serious healthcare company, especially in biotech, med tech, longevity, regenerative medicine, digital health, medical device, doesn't matter, right? There are a couple of pressures happening all at once. Let's go through each just very quickly. First, the company has to grow. It has to find the right customers, the right investors, the right referral partners, the right physicians and payers and patients. And each of those customer groups has its own, essentially, what we would call CRM. It has to have a clear story and narrative with clear compliance swim lanes for each of those groups, because customers versus investors versus physician outreach versus clinical trial work all have clear regulatory frameworks that have to be respected and honored. But meanwhile, the solution set around CRM and engagement has a lot in common. The way we talk to doctors or patients, and create connected journeys to drive leads into sales funnels and conversion is routine and repeatable. So how do you build routine, repeatable customer relationship management within regulatory frameworks, while we're architecting, this new operating system around agents and LLMs? So it's about growth, it's about staying compliant, and it's about new ways of working, right? Because AI is not just another app. It changes how humans and software collaborate. Healthcare organizations need to figure out how executives and teams and agents and workflows can work together now around what I call the single brain, right? We're moving from scattered tools into one solution that everyone will be on and live within. that can have recursive self-improvement, that can get the flywheel going and build a proprietary brain for your company. You can't just upload your intellectual property into Claude. Terrible idea. Don't do it. There's a lot of discussion now on if you give away your IP, if you're uploading your plans, is that secure? It is not, right? So each company needs its own proprietary AI solution. It needs its own alpha. That is your intellectual property that must be protected at all times and not delivered into the cloud or into the large clouds, right? Because it will be potentially lost. Or Claude will simply commodify that data or commodify your solution and roll it out, in about 6 months, right? Which would cannibalize what your USP really is. So let's talk a little bit about agent and architecture. So the key technical trend is this, right? Agents are becoming capable of doing more than just answering the questions like an LLM. They plan, they retrieve, they remember, they call tools, they coordinate with other agents. They can go out and engage with a Lunascape, which is super exciting. And they can evaluate partnerships and improve itself, improve the stack, and improve the way we do business over time. We have to have the recursive self-improvement, and we have to respect the role that the agents have versus the role that humans have, right? So the questions will be, very practically, where does the memory live? What tools can the agent use? What data can it access? What decisions can it make? What are the legal and regulatory swim lanes that have to be respected within healthcare? How should work be escalated and approved? How's it evaluated safely? Right? So these are not abstract technology questions. These are very practical, day-to-day questions that need to be asked and answered and built, for each healthcare organization. For healthcare leaders, these are really operating questions. The future healthcare company will not be run just by humans alone, right? It should not be run by AI alone. It should be run by agentic and human partnerships. And that will bring the best of human judgment, the best of human accountability, taste, ethics, clinical context, commercial experience, and leadership, right? You cannot delegate all of that. The humans have to be there to bring seasoned judgment at every step of the way. And remember, the role of the CEO has always been to be able to ladder up very important strategic, legal, clinical questions, and the CEO has to bring his or her best judgment to that situation. So the winners will be the companies that learn how to design that partnership intentionally from the ground up. That means architecture matters, governance matters, memory matters. What is the old memory that should be discarded? What is the new memory that helps the company lean in to recursive self-improvement to get smarter and move faster than competitors? So that is, all those things are how we built and why we built HealthFounder OS, HealthFounder operating system. Let's talk a little bit about that idea and the idea that organizations need a single brain, not just a chatbot, not one prompt library, not one automation. The single brain means one governed context for the company's strategy, its priorities, its offers, its customers, its patients, its markets, its partners, its advisors, its risks, all those great things that need to be part of the shared intelligence layer within clear swim lanes. And that's what the single brain is all about. We're talking about moving from superhero powers that every individual now experiences, including the CEO. And those individuals are holding on to those superpowers very tightly. They've spent months now building them out. I have spent months building out my superpowers ever since October of 2022 of the LLMs, now into really what was December and January with the birth of OpenClaw and Hermes that are incredible about building your own proprietary single brain that has its own memory and its own improvement that is all yours, your Jarvis. So now it's a matter of how do you build that and operate that for a healthcare organization. And that's what a disciplined operating model is all about. So we're going to talk about the single brain. We're going to talk about the governance workflows. We're going to talk about, what are the easiest ways to get started. There are also a couple of things that are really important. One of my favorite guys, Salim from Moonshots podcast with Peter Diamandis, talks about the organizational immune system. And so when you go in to change the way people are working now with their superhero powers, there is sort of the company immune system, right? They're going to reject this change. They don't want to be part of a single brain. I get it, but everybody really needs to get on board. And so a lot of the ways to do that is about building edge products or projects. So we're going to talk about our AI twin, which is go in, build an AI solution that has recursive self-improvement, that is the single brain, run it side by side in parallel to the organization. So we got to protect the golden goose. We need to protect the existing sources of business and relationships. We can't let agents just operate, without guardrails. And we're going to demonstrate that over 30, 60, 90 days. And when we trust and believe that the new single brain is outperforming the existing status quo, then now we will migrate over and drive adoption into that new improved work stream, right? That will be more proactive, more predictive, more accountable, and more capable of execution, right? So HealthFounderOS starts with one simpler operating principle. Start with one workflow, govern it, prove the value, scale what works. That's the opposite of random AI adoption. It's disciplined experimentation. We've always done that. Back in the 2000s, we initially onboarded websites, banner ads, emails, e-detailing, eCME, all these great things in digital health that were revolutionary at the time, that received a lot of resistance, especially from sales organizations that were like, why would we bother with digital? There's nobody there. Who's reading this stuff? So now we got through 20 years or 25 years of digital adoption into personalization and all this great ad martech that's now available. And then now we're transitioning into the agentic realm. So let's say it again. Let's start with one workflow, govern it, prove it, scale what works, and then keep going from there. So one of the other points that I wanted to make is that we can't just copy, or healthcare can't just copy Silicon Valley's move fast and break things model, right? Healthcare has patients that have severe illnesses, right? There's a lot of risk and importance of respecting our care work streams. We can't just disrupt the flow of care. Healthcare has clinicians, right? We can't just disrupt the way clinicians are serving their patients and bringing care, especially in life-threatening situations or around chronic disease or acute or chronic pain or any of the other conditions like oncology, rheumatology, dermatology, all these areas that we've been working in for so long. Healthcare has FDA considerations. Healthcare has privacy requirements and obligations and legal and regulatory reviews, clinical claims that have to be handled in an absolute lockdown manner and very carefully, and also very trust-sensitive relationships. So the healthcare version of the exponential organization has to be governed from the beginning. And that's why HealthFounderOS is not just about activity, it has to be about effectiveness and execution. So the three problems that HealthFounderOS is built to help organizations with is solving three problems at the same time. First is growth. Number one, healthcare companies need better commercial execution. They need clear positioning, better market intelligence, stronger follow-up, better referrals, better sales systems, stronger customer experiences, better journeys, tighter investor and partner communications. AI can help, but only if it's connected to the company's real strategy and operating cadence. Number two is compliance. So healthcare companies cannot afford unmanaged AI. They need guardrails around claims, privacy, PHI, legal interpretation, Sunshine Act, FDA, FTC, all the good things governing commercial communications, unbranded patient education, physician partnerships, KOL management, clinical trial development, and all the good things around that. So AI is not going to just replace human judgment, it has to support it. And it's a system to help keep humans accountable, right? There's a lot of talk about medical legal reviews happening agentically, and you can probably get 90% of the way there. But an agent is not going to bring the judgment of a human attorney. You have to be able to have the seasoned experience and understand the history of what's happening of case law and FDA regulatory actions in your category, in your space. And you can go a long way with a good legal LLM prompt, but you got to keep your human legal partnerships close and involved and engaged at all times. 3 is really human and agentic partnerships. So this is the new frontier. Healthcare companies need to learn how humans and agents work together. What should the agent do? What should the human approve? What should be escalated? What should be measured? What should be repeated? What should be stopped? And because the health AI landscape is changing every week, the operating model has to include ongoing evaluation. Which tools matter? Which agents are useful? Should we go with Claude? Should we have Kimmy K? Should we go with Grok? Right? There's lots of discussion on the cost of tokens, the value of the tokens. How can we get great, smart, the smartest LLMs involved at the lowest possible cost? And we all are following this in real time, as we experience incredible harness and tool set from Claude and others. But meanwhile, open source value and cost is absolutely going towards zero. And so that's, again, why you need your OpenClaw. You need your Hermes, your Hermes, which I use personally to constantly manage the cost of the tokens while you're just absolutely token maxing and driving a maximum amount of value for the organization in an always on manner, right? So that's why HealthFounderOS is not just a strategy framework, it's an operating model for continuous evaluation in the regulatory context. And that, I think, is what is essential to this approach. So let me talk about the 2 paths that we offer at HealthFounderOS, which is the disciplined approach and operating model. The first is what I'm going to call the all-in twin. Of course, all-in is a nod to our amazing friends in the All-In podcast who are incredible. We're so grateful for their thought leadership, continually guiding us into the landscape. But the twin is really a concept from Salim at OpenEXO. His thought leadership is incredible. He's on the Moonshot podcast with Peter Diamandis. I'm an enormous devotee and fan of that group. Again, thank you for their thought leadership. You should follow Salim on the on Moonshots. But the whole point is that organizations have an appropriate immune response when you're introducing an AI agent. There is resistance. The humans are worried about losing their superpowers or losing their job, right? And it's inevitable that anything that is repeatable, that agents can do better than humans, that's going to absorb those tasks. But meanwhile, we have to help transition and coach and train humans into what they're good at. They are the tastemakers. They are the creatives. They are the leadership. They are determining what risks to take, what envelopes they can push. And so we're going to talk about human roles. Just written an article about that in PM 360 on the marketing singularity. It's very interesting to think about and construct what humans should do, what the agent should do, and then how do you manage an organization over time to get to that place. So the all-in AI twin is a high-touch path where I'm involved as your fractional AI partner, where we're going to embed at the C-suite, at the board of directors level, with executive teams to help install the single brain, install the operating processes, design the governed workflows, align growth and compliance, and then really build that human agent operating rhythm. It's a cadence that we're going to get into. We're going to move from scattered AI tools into one governed organization with recursive self-improvement that can learn faster than competitors and help you achieve competitive advantage. So all-in twin is high touch. The second is our AI Pro Evolve. That's a lighter path for lighter budgets to give healthcare leaders the frameworks, the prompts, the tools, the scorecards, the workflow guidance, but it's more of a DIY, but using the disciplined approach from HealthFounderOS. So one is high touch, one is more DIY. Both are great. Both are built on the same tool sets, and both paths are built on the same belief that health organizations do not need more scattered AI tools. Lunascape is overwhelming, but you have to have a governed AI native commercial operating model around your Hermes, your proprietary alpha that protects your intellectual property, that does not upload it into Claude. And so let's wrap this up. Thanks for sticking with me. But if you're leading a healthcare company right now, I'd like to ask you one question. Are your AI tools making your organization more aligned, or is it more fragmented? Is there drift, right? The future is not just about using AI. Everyone's going to use it. Everyone is using it. The future is about building the operating system around a single brain, around governed workflows, around human accountability, and then getting the value out of the agentic execution. It is growth with compliance and continuous evaluation of the new health AI landscape that is super exciting. And we're all scrambling to keep up, right? A new hamster wheel, right? So that's what we're building with HealthFounderOS, from scattered tools to governed healthcare workflows, fragmented intelligence to one single brain, strategic drift to coordinated execution. So if you'd like to pressure test where AI could help create leverage in your healthcare company without creating chaos, come to predictcare.ai. Please take the scorecard. It's free. Check out the tools, the prompts, and book time with me directly. I would love to chat. Thank you very much for sticking with me in this video, and we wish you all the best of luck on this new exciting journey. Take care. Thanks so much.